Noswaithar, good evening everyone, and Croeso Isan Stefan, Sam Rowlands. Thank you very much for joining me here with my panad with Virginia in my sofa here in Westminster. Before we start, I'd like to give a few thank yous. I have had a few packages have been sent in the post. Now we've got one here, Sam. I think you'd be very interested in this. I've got an electric kettle.
Oh, wow, fantastic.
So Debbie and Thomas and Sue Williams have sent me an electric kettle along with this. Have you ever had this?
I'm not sure of this. I'm not sure of this. Instant black tea with whitener.
So I think we'll Sue and Debbie, we'll have that next time, I think.
Very
and then I've also from the I had a brilliant Honest Loud South Stack volunteers, and they have hi Gracie. Gracie's Kitchen is watching, and we've got a couple of South Stack mugs here. Look, aren't they great?
Wow.
So next time you come,
nice.
it would be brilliant. And then also I was at the turning of the Llangefni lights on Friday night, and this lovely lady, Alice May. Look at that. So
that's very pretty.
Christmas decoration.
That's really impressive, isn't it?
I know.
Beautiful.
I know.
It reminds me of Home Alone, that does, with the two doves. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very, very special. So thank you so much to all those that have kindly sent in presents. David Wynne Roberts is watching. Oh, we got Sue. Hi, Sue. We've just been talking about you and your fantastic kettle and your QT. Sue is she is one of the sort of she's very famous for lots of things. She was one of my guests. She's a bugler, and she's also a very good elf. And I will be the elf in Chemice actually next Saturday, along with Santa by Sea. But Sam, this is all about you. So I think we're going to have some. So Gwil Rowlands, we've got Make It Your Business watching. We're just waiting for people to
fellow Rowlands.
Jump. Yeah, is that
safety in numbers. We get everywhere.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we'll get some questions coming in. Hi, Colin. Good evening, all. Make It Your Business Noswaithar. Thank you, Make It Your Business Honest Morn. I hope you had a fantastic small business Saturday across the island, and lots of support for our fantastic small businesses. Martina is watching as well. So Sam, how about you tell everybody, Honest Morn is represented by 5 members of the Senedd, and you are one of those 5. We're really lucky to have you, and Sam spends a lot of time on the island. Hi Beth Whitney, thank you for joining us. Now, so what are your particular roles?
Yeah, so Virginia, as you say, I'm a member of the Senedd, the Welsh Parliament down in Cardiff. I'm one of these funny regional members to represent everywhere across North Wales, right from Wrexham in the east, all the way through to Ynys Môn and into North Wales, further beyond that as well. So whilst you have a constituency member on the island, you also have 4 other regional members like myself representing the patch. So I'm in Cardiff usually, sort of Monday to Thursday in the Senedd, involved in debates and discussions and in the committees of the Senedd, as every other Senedd member is. I live in Abergele, in right in the middle of North Wales there, so I'm right central, so I can get across the whole patch. I've got a soft spot for Ynys Môn though, because I used to live over that way just near Carnarvon as a child, sort of grew up in that area, so lots of great memories and a soft spot for that part of the world. So in the Senedd itself, I am the shadow minister for local government, because we love our councils most of the time anyway.
So you were the leader. You were the leader of.
That's right. I was leader of Conwy County Borough Council before I was in the Senedd. So I was the leader there for a few years, and then I also sit on the local government and housing committee. And housing is a big issue across Wales, in particular in North Wales. There's huge amounts of pressure there. And then as a politician, you get involved in all sorts of different things. So I chair a cross-party group on tourism. Really passionate about seeing tourism do really well. I also chair a cross-party group on outdoor activities. So that's a bit of what I get up to down there.
So we've got some questions coming through. So the petition against to rescind the disaster 20 mile an hour default speed limit has reached more people have supported that petition than actually voted for the Senedd, and we've had 8,700 people have signed that petition just from Ynys Môn. So what's your feedback being?
So let's talk about 20 miles per hour first of all, and let's be straight about this. Has been an absolute disaster of a policy from the Welsh government. As you say, around 500,000 people actively wanting to see this thing not continue. My position is very, very much that same as those 500,000 people who signed that petition. It seems like a step too far. Absolutely the right thing to have outside schools, outside those heavily pedestrianised areas where it makes sense to completely. But as a default speed limit, I think it's probably not necessary. It's costing over £30 million to implement, and it's costing those councils, as the very same councils that are struggling to kind of make ends meet at the moment.
Yeah, so Nathan Jones says it's an absolute disaster. So what can people do about it? Obviously signing the petition, but what can they do? I mean,
well, ultimately, when I challenge ministers and the First Minister in particular in the Senate, their comeback is, well, it's in our manifesto, and therefore we've put it in place. So that's the message for us all, is that it comes down to who do you vote for in the next round of the Senate elections. And as Welsh Conservatives, we've said that if we get into power in 2026, we would rescind the 20 miles per hour legislation. So ultimately, government isn't listening to a petition. The way to do that is to change government, and the way you change government is at elections. So I would suggest you keep putting pressure on the Welsh Government in the meantime, keep reminding them that you're not comfortable or happy with the status quo as it is at the moment, and they need to change that. And local authorities have a role to play as well. So Anglesey Council, Ynysmore Council, is able to identify certain roads that don't need to stick to that 20 miles per hour limit. So I would suggest you need to put some pressure on local councillors, find out who councillor is, remind them that they have the power, the ability to change that for certain roads in certain areas. So if there's somewhere in your patch on the island that you think doesn't necessarily need to be at 20 miles per hour as a default, let your councillors know.
Let me know. Drop me an email and I will take that up with you for the council. Absolutely. So please do. I think that's a great suggestion, Sam. And there are certainly roads across Ynysmore that we can look into that. And we've got Maud Page-Croft from Beaumaris. It was a excellent Victorian weekend, Maud. I love meeting the donkeys and the reindeer, and I went to elf school as well. That was that was brilliant. Hi, Eleanor Thomas. Thank you for joining us.
Elf school sounds fascinating. I need to learn more about that. Considering schooling in Wales at the moment hasn't done particularly well in the PISA results, perhaps they can learn from the elf school.
Well, one of the questions coming in is from Federica, and she's asking about these PISA results. And I hear that Andrew Davies had a bit of a to-do with the First Minister today. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting to hear what Andrew Davies had to say, and rightfully he's challenging the First Minister on these results. I just get really disappointed most of the time. I'm just gutted. My children, my 3 girls are in school here in Wales. I want them to have the best possible education. And I just see these results, and I just feel gutted that I know that my children aren't going to have the best education that they can possibly have, versus over in England where the results are significantly better. I think there's an issue around there's lack of focus on standards from Welsh governments. They're probably more interested in some in culture wars at times, it feels, rather than actually just focusing on what we all need to know is how to do maths well, how to read well. Those are the basics of every educational experience. So Welsh Government are bringing all sorts of different ideas. Keep it simple, and their ideas aren't working at the moment because the PISA results reflect that.
Someone just asked a question about the council and the 20 mile an hour. The questions actually disappear on our screen, so could they kindly ask those questions again? I'd like to say welcome to John Parker. Thank you for joining. So why do classroom assistants get paid such disgracefully? We're using an important role. Yes, I agree. Classroom assistants.
Yeah, classroom assistants are really important, aren't they? In making sure that
Is that down to the council in terms of their budget?
It'll be schools pay, and then council budgets into schools ultimately. But I agree, they're for the work that they do, they're not paid anywhere near enough.
It's so important, actually. It can be life changing. Well, Alan Shepherd has joined. Dimitar, thank you for watching. Any more questions coming through? Perhaps you'd like to talk about your new outdoor learning legislation.
Yeah. So I'm talking about education. I've got a members bill. So in Westminster here, it's called a private members bill. In the Senate, they just call it a members bill, which is an opportunity for somebody like me to present an idea that should become law in the future. So the idea that I've put in the Senate is that every child at some point in their schooling should have the opportunity to get away with their classmates for an outdoor residential experience. I guess many people watching this will have some fond memories of getting away with your classmates at some point, perhaps doing some canoeing or climbing a hill, whatever it might have been. But unfortunately, not all children have that opportunity of that experience. So I'm trying to put it into the curriculum here in Wales, that every child has that opportunity. So we've been working on this for 18 months. I've got a great team of people behind the scenes doing a lot of work on this, and I presented it into the Welsh Parliament last week, and I've got a really exciting committee session tomorrow. So for anybody who's struggling to sleep, I'll be in front of a committee tomorrow morning talking about this bill being scrutinised, and it's worth having a little nosy at if you get a chance as well. It's called the Residential Outdoor Education Wales Bill, and it's trying to give that opportunity to every young person here in Wales.
So we've got Alan has joined us, and we've got Mark Hodgson. Hi Mark, Sharon Hearn, and Harriet Ann. Thank you so much for joining us this evening in Westminster. We've got Sasha as well. Nigel Ellis. Hi Nigel. Do you think the number of members of the Senate is too small? Great question, Nigel. So we've currently got 60 members of the Senate. That will be increasing to 96. And a cost of over 100 million pounds. That's a lot of dentists and doctors' appointments. And in terms of the number of senatormen, do you think that's a priority? We should be creating more jobs in Cardiff?
Absolutely not. It's really interesting, isn't it? That's the thing that Welsh Government are choosing to spend their time and energy on is more politicians. I mean, imagine more people like me. It's going to be a nightmare, and it's not going to help actually what people need in Wales to see, which is to see, as I say, see the dentist, get seen by a local doctor, for teaching standards to improve. It's going to cost over £100 million to implement this. I'm not sure it's what people want right now. But we've got a government Labour government in Cardiff, backed up by Plaid Cymru. Let's not forget that. They're the ones who are backing us up, because there needs to be a super majority for it to go through. They're insisting this is what needs to happen. I'm not convinced at all at the moment.
Okay, we've got Camilla, thank you for joining us. And I think Bethan says, do you think you and your colleagues could be doing more in the Senate to draw attention to the failings of Welsh Labour and the cooperation agreement with Plaid? I mean, there's a whole long, I think I saw a whole long list today from sort of Cardiff Airport. I mean, they've actually, by not doing the third crossing, that actually cost £2 million in investment.
Yeah.
And they've pulled back from that.
Yeah, there's always more we can do to highlight the failings of the Welsh Government in Cardiff. I think there's a challenge there for our media to play a role in this as well. Certainly as politicians, we should be shouting about this from the rooftops. To be fair, I think, and I would say this because I'm one of them, I think in the chamber in Cardiff we do that pretty well. We hold the government to account. We don't hear the same from Plaid Cymru. So we've had First Minister's questions today. It's interesting that the leader of Plaid Cymru decided to talk about UK government stuff and not to stand there challenging. We've got opportunities to challenge the First Minister of Wales.
Yes.
Nearly every week. They don't use the opportunity to do that. They're not actually taking their responsibility seriously as members of the Senate, because they always talk about UK government. They're obsessed with UK government rather than what the Welsh government is doing and what they can influence, which is what's happening.
And do you think that's because of the cooperation agreement? So it was actually the cooperation agreement that was the increasing number of Senate members, wasn't it? That was part of the that was part of the.
Well, it's got to be, isn't it? It's a very cosy setup between Plaid Cymru and Labour. I mean, they're two socialist parties at the end of the day. One just more focused on independence than the other. And the old adage is, vote Labour, get Plaid, vote Plaid, get Labour. It's just, they're one of the same thing. So yeah, there's a lack of scrutiny certainly from those benches. So it's down then to 16 of us Conservatives having that scrutiny, and then trying to make sure the media is reporting on this stuff, which frankly I don't think is at the level it could or should be.
We had some of the media at the Welsh Affairs Select Committee, and one of the points they made was essentially because it's they don't want to ruin the relationships with some of the Labour ministers, because they
so we've got on that point. Sorry, I think it's this really important point for people to hear about. I think is that because we've had the same government now for nearly 25 years in Wales, the Labour government, there's really cosy relationships all over the place. Perhaps sometimes, as Virginia points out, in places like the media, but within the third sector, within other organisations, because that same government's been in place there for 25 years, and with many of the same faces involved, it's not good for democracy. It's not good for decision making.
So we've got Rob Wardle is watching. Hi Rob, I hope you're enjoying your retirement. He's one of my favourite people. We've got Donna Jones as well. We've got Susan. Susan's joining us as well. And it's interesting, you're coming up to the budget, aren't we, in the Senate? And last year, Plaid had the opportunity to, I think that the budget was to actually have have less money for the NHS in Wales, and Plaid had the opportunity to support the Conservatives to vote the budget down, but instead they actually abstained.
Yeah, Plaid Cymru are supporting the Labour government in Cardiff. They like to try and wash their hands of all sorts of decisions being made, but they're completely complicit within this, and we remind them in the chamber of that when they stand up and criticise Welsh government on some things, as they do from time to time. Remind them, well, you've allowed this to happen. You're allowing this budget to go through. It's your decision making having an effect here.
And it does seem to be that if things are going well, it's all about sort of Welsh Labour in Cardiff, and if things are going bad, it's all about the UK government here in Westminster. Yeah. And it always does seem to be down to more and more money. Yeah. Now, with the local councils, how did that relationship work between you heading the council in Conway and then the Welsh government and the UK government? How did that practically work for you as the leader of the council?
Yeah, I don't want to bore people, but there are some really awkward and faffy structures in place around how government works in Wales at times, because you've got councils as one level and you've got Welsh government and UK government, as Virginia points out. But you've also got the regional bodies as well, which actually make a lot of decision making behind the scenes that people don't always recognise. You've got things like the regional partnership board, you've got corporate joint committees, you've got public service boards, all level of democracy that people don't really see happening, taking place. So that there adds a complication. In my role, when I was leading the council, a lot of that time was through the COVID time. So actually, Welsh government realised that they needed the councils on side and needed the council to actually deliver a lot of things. So, we put in place like a field hospital in Venue Cymru. We had an emergency sort of morgue in Conway area as well, and we were making decisions on care homes being open and closed, schools being open and closed. So that was a really lively time to that decision making. UK government done really good work around funding. So we've seen recently with councils in Wales levelling up funding come into North Wales.
17.6 million for Holyhead.
Yes, a huge amount of money coming straight to those communities from the UK government. We've also seen things like North Wales Economic Ambition Board set up, which is worth overall about £1 billion worth of investment into North Wales. There's a challenge at the moment as to how fast it's going to be delivered. But yeah, it's a bit kind of got a broader point. Sorry, Virginia, on the economy for us in Wales, because one of the issues I think is that Welsh government, and we see it with the 20 miles per hour stuff, Welsh government has no treasury responsibility. So when it comes to decision making, whether the economy does really well or really badly, doesn't really, in their minds, really matter too much. Because they still get the same amount of funding from Westminster, so I think it affects decision making.
This is taxpayers' money, though.
Yeah,
this is not UK government.
Yeah.
This is our money. This is everybody's money.
Taxpayers' money. But they're not incentivised by the economy doing well, because they'll still receive taxpayers' money from Westminster, whether the economy is booming or the economy is falling off a cliff. So on a 20 miles per hour example,
the £4 billion.
£4.5 billion hits the economy as a central figure. Up to £9 billion cost the economy. But to them, it's like, well, the public sector is going to save a bit of cash because 20 miles per hour, but the bigger impact is to our economy, which they have no responsibility for in terms of the tax revenue from that. And I think it's causing a real problem now in Wales when it comes to seeing our economy grow, because we should be booming. We're an incredible place to be, but we're not growing at the rate we should be at all. Sorry,
I'm doing on the Welsh Affairs Select Committee tomorrow. We're starting a new review, which is why so many people of our young people are leaving Wales. So that's going to be quite an interesting review.
Yeah, and actually, I guess you'll find out a lot that's to do with jobs.
Yeah,
and you're doing a great work on the island in terms of trying to attract some of those big players. And that's going to make a real difference to people actually hanging around on the island. But we're not seeing that replicated across Wales, because we've got a Welsh government holding people back at the moment.
Oh, exactly. And we've got Anne Ross, hi, and Jennifer. We've got Linda Peace is watching. Croeso, welcome here. And Sam, we've got to talk to you about two things: second homes, and also the tourism tax. So can we start with second homes? So, what's your solution? I mean, my personal view is, how come people can come from England and buy their second home on the island? Not their first home, their second home. And for me, it's all about getting those jobs and getting those salaries up in North Wales.
So on second homes, I sometimes think that there's a bit of a scapegoat there. for Welsh Government not building or seeing enough homes being built in Wales. So we know that according to their own figures, around 12,000 homes a year should have been built in Wales over the last decade. There's never been more than 6,000 a year built. So what we're seeing now when it comes to people at times struggling to get on the housing ladder or to rent a home is the effect of years and years of not enough homes being built, and our young people in particular are really struggling in that area. Now we know there's around 20-ish thousand second homes in Wales.
More empty homes than second homes.
Exactly, that's the point.
More empty homes than second homes.
And even if all 20,000 of those second homes were kind of brought back into use overnight, that's not going to solve the long-term problem, which is actually we need to see more homes being built. So absolutely, I understand in some communities there is an acute pressure when particularly those communities are very, very quiet during the winter times. I absolutely get that and understand that, and have a definitely level of sympathy for those communities. But in the long term, the solution to this is actually seeing more homes being built, affordable homes, different types of accommodation, smaller property. We see more people wanting one-bedroom accommodation, and that accommodation being in the right place with the right infrastructure around it. And that's another part of the issue at the moment. We're seeing when homes are being built, we're not seeing the infrastructure around our doctors, our dentists, the roads, our schools aren't in place around it to support those communities. That's part of the solution. I sit on the housing committee. We're taking some great evidence on this in recent times. Again, if people are really struggling to sleep, I'd advise you have a look at some of the information evidence that came through the housing committee in the Senedd, and we've talked in particular around communities down the Llyn in particular, but also on the island as well.
No, absolutely, and I'd like to say hi to Joy, to Akmal. We've also got Alan Dawson, Yvette Christian, Deb Shepherd, and the lovely Lynn Moore, one of my lovely neighbours. Now, tourism and hospitality is a key sector for the island. Yep. It is quite cyclical, and it's a great sector. There's some really good jobs there. Yeah. And one of the things I've done is amended the Employment Act so that people, when they get a tip, that tip will actually go to them. Yeah. And I think that's really important that we look after that sector, and obviously grow other sectors. Anglesey is known as Energy Island. We've got wind, wave, solar, tidal, hydrogen, and obviously the Freeport. So tell us a bit about this, the tourism tax, and how it will impact North Wales.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't touch on that when you asked that a minute ago. I wasn't evading it, honestly.
No.
Tourism tax, which is what the Welsh Government call the visitor levy, that's going to be coming in fairly soon into Wales, because legislation going through the process. I don't get it, quite honestly. For us in North Wales in particular, and on the island, as you say, it's worth what, £3.5 billion a year. The tourism economy is across Wales. Tourism accounts for 1 in 7 jobs through supply chain and through direct employment as well. We're sort of bashing the thing which is one of the best industries that we have. Now, the actual amount of money itself, £1 a night or £2 a night, I don't think that's what the argument is about. It's the message it sends to people coming to Wales, which is, in my mind, not as welcome as it could be. And for the industry itself, we know that they're already paying over the odds when it comes to VAT. So they're already paying their fair share into the taxation system, because the argument I often hear is, well, if you go to Venice or if you go across Europe or across the world, you pay this tourism tax, and that's just kind of what happens. But what those other countries aren't doing is paying VAT at the same level.
Exactly.
Industries, tourism is always paying that incredible amount of tax at the moment. It's going into the system. Councils or other Welsh Government are receiving that money from taxpayers already. In my mind, it's not the right thing to be doing for those tourism businesses, and as part of that welcome we should be providing to people coming into Wales.
And hi to Lydia, Lydia McGuire. Lydia, thank you so much for all your lovely comments. She is
any nice comments about
breath,
me?
A breath of fresh. No, she doesn't want on an ongoing basis. And also Graham and Ramona as well. And we've got Stephen. We've got lots of questions coming through. So the third crossing and this whole cancelling all of these major road building projects. I mean, I'm all for sort of getting people out their cars, getting them onto the buses. I think the buses is a whole other issue with the 20 mile an hour and the bridges. And with these rural communities, it is very, very difficult. But if we're going to, Holyhead is the second busiest roll-on port in the whole of the UK. We're going to have a free port. Hopefully we're going to have new nuclear at Wilbur. We need to have that transport resilience. And we've seen that with the Menai Suspension Bridge. When that closed in October, we didn't even have a minister came from Cardiff. Took weeks.
I think what gets me the most in this, that the Welsh Government ministers just don't get it. They don't get how we work in North Wales and the impact it has on the island and even on the mainland as well when that crossing isn't open. So they don't get the importance of the crossing. They don't understand how rural Wales works. Rural Wales works. They don't understand how North Wales works in terms of transport either. And the policy making seems to be completely focused on how things work in the middle of city centre Cardiff, which is not the area I represent in North Wales. Not how most of your viewers will view things in Anglesey as well. So there's a they don't get it, and on the broader point of banning road building, that's a real issue for us in North Wales. I know I'm here as sitting with you for Ynys Môn, but across the whole region I represent, the amount of infrastructure not going ahead now because Welsh Government have banned it is going to have a real impact on our economy. It goes back to that broader issue of the Welsh Government not understanding how the economy works and not having a direct consequence when the economy does not grow in Wales, and therefore the incentive for them to not have road building in place. For anybody out on there, I've got to admit something. When I was a kid, I used to play a game called Sim City, and when I was really kind of advanced, we played a game called Sim City 2000, which is basically a game when you're a kid about building a little city, and you have shops and you have some industry, you have houses. But the number one rule on that there is always get your roads right. Get your roads right, and actually everything else works really well from that. And that's my worry for us in the patch in North Wales and on the island. The road infrastructure isn't right at the moment, and there's not a government in Cardiff who are incentivised to make it work. And then the other point on public transport, because obviously the motive behind this is to push more people onto trains, onto buses, but it's definitely cart before the horse stuff because they're not ready to go either.
So, Sam, we can't leave this conversation without talking about healthcare in North Wales, and obviously with Ysbyty Gwynedd and Betsy Cadwaladr University Health Board, and what we have on the island. We're really struggling, particularly in Holyhead, with getting access to a GP. We don't have a medical centre, and that's something that I'm really fighting for. Can we rely on your help to help us with that? That would be really transformational for
Absolutely.
the island.
We're more than happy to continue raising these points in the Senedd with the Minister directly. When we talk about ministers not getting it in terms of transport, it's similar sometimes when it comes to health in North Wales. You've got to remember, nearly all the ministers represent areas in South Wales and aren't experiencing day-to-day what your viewers and listeners are experiencing when it comes to health services. Now, at times it's really good and you get a great service from our doctors and nurses working really hard, but sadly for too many people the experience is not good. They can't access the people they need to access when they need to access them. Emergency services sadly are letting too many people down, and my residents, your residents, are experiencing that far too often. So more than happy to continue raising these points in the Senedd, keep putting pressure on Welsh Government to do that, and to deal with the backlog of waiting lists as well. That's a crying shame for people at the moment. And in England, NHS has managed to get a grip of it. In Wales, there's far too many people, thousands of people in fact, on waiting lists who shouldn't be on waiting lists at the moment.
So Lynn Moore makes a really good point about North Wales needing specialist facilities, like they've got 2 hot centres in the south. Adrian Clark, hi, thank you for joining us. And Jill makes a really good point about jobs, and we've got Simon May as well. Now, Sam, I'd love to give you one of my first Christmas cards. You're very honoured here. So this is Alicia Hughes from Ysgol Llanfar is Mora Wellon in Holyhead, and look at that! It's an absolutely beautiful dragon. And then we had two runners up. We had Ysgol Cilgeliog, so Greyhug, and also also we had Tyler Hughes from Uskall, a town which is just next to RAF Valley, and the card here is sponsored by so many businesses across the island. So I'm going to, is it Natasha you're on the half?
Mine is Natasha, yeah.
Natasha. So there we go. You've got one of my first Christmas cards. I actually gave one to the Prime Minister actually on Wednesday, and there's 3,000 of these are going out.
I'm sure the Prime Minister would treasure it in the same way that I would.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. And then next week we've got Natasha Ascot. And what do you think Natasha's going to be talking about?
20 miles per hour and trains.
Yes, and trains. So that'd be great to talk to her about that. Few dates for your diary. We've got. I'm doing a big fundraiser. If you look on. My Facebook events, I'm doing a big fundraiser for the celebration of the two bridges, and that's going to be at the Menai Bridge Museum. And then in February, I've got the Secretary of State for DWP, Work and Pensions, coming, Mel Stride, and we're going to do a fundraiser on Thursday, the 8th of February at Braid's Bistro at the Holyhead Golf Club, and funds from there will go to support students at the Holyhead High School. And then on the Friday, the 9th, we are going to do a disability confident jobs fair at the Holyhead Town Hall. So if you'd like to get involved with that. My next surgery is going to be in Bedorgan on Friday the 8th of March. And then I've got a huge event actually. I've got a summer activities fair which is on the 8th of June at the Carnarvon in Holyhead. And what we want to do is showcase all the organisations on the island, all these things that are available for families across the island. So it will be, we're going to hopefully have just lots and lots of organisations. So if you'd like to get involved with that. And then I'm also going to be hopefully doing a Holyhead Pride event. So if you'd like to get involved with that, then do get involved. And then Adrian Clark, have you seen a trailer for Game of Thrones showing so many views of Anglesey? A good way to promote the island as a film. Excellent, a lovely last point, Adrian. Thank you so much everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you for Sue and Debbie for the fantastic kettle and the tea and
the kettle looks great. The tea looks a bit suspect to me.
And thank you so much, Sam, for joining us tonight. It's really brilliant. And good luck with your new bill, outdoor education bill. And thank you for your support for the medical centre and also our third crossing. Appreciate that.
Not at all. Thank you.
Right, take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.